What's going on YouTube? Southern Comic Gear with not a haul video. And so this is my first chance to work on StreamYard. And so just kind of working through some of that. And also wanted to be sharing my content, my comic books in collection, and wanted to see how that goes. And so pardon the clunkiness, as it were, because this is my first time using StreamYard. And let's see if I can pull this up over here. Let's see. We are live. Okay, there we go. That answered my question. Thank you, Mark Spector, for jumping back in here. And so the purpose of this video, and hopefully everybody is staying corona-free out there. And I had planned on taking a few days off and ended up doing more work yesterday than anything else. But wanted to put a video that I've been working on for the last little while. So for those of you who don't know, I got back into collecting comics back in September of last year. So some 6 months later, I have amassed 3,500 comic books. So when I got back into collecting, there was no really major rhyme or reason. I just grabbed after the 90s and 80s era comics that I was used to. And so as I kind of went along, I tried to refine some of my approach, some of my collecting, because there's only so many dollars in that collecting budget. And trying to get it to go to all the right places is a little tough at times. And so just wanted to get to doing that. But in the meantime, I raided a lot of dollar bins and bought a lot of runs of comics that I grew up with. And that's fine. For the most part, I still have those and was going to share some of those today because, like many of you, I'm sure, size of your collections gets out of hand. And then where do you put that stuff from there, right? You know, where do you amass all those boxes and make it accessible? So when you go to the shop and you find some good finds, you don't want to make it so big of a chore that you never file your books. And that's kind of where I'm at now. One of the things that I did when I was younger and in the collecting, I used to always get long boxes. And so I don't know, it made sense to me to get a long box. That way, if I have a longer run, like my Uncanny X-Men or Spider-Man or things of that nature, that I could just have it all in one box and look at it one run after another. However, as I've gotten older, picking up those big long boxes is somewhat of a chore. And so I found myself starting to put things into smaller boxes. But in either case, it's a chore to move that stuff around. Size place constraints, you know, to where I can put my stuff. Lost in Comics, what's going on, man? Yeah, and so you know, it's kind of fitting that you popped in there because in here rather, because I'm kind of lost in comics, and that's kind of the purpose of my deal today. So I'm going to share my screen, and I have never done this before. Let's say Chrome 10. Here we go. Oh, seems easy enough. And so hopefully everybody is seeing the shared screen here. And this is CLZ. This is all of my comics. As you can see right here, 3,503 comic books. And the 99% of them were amassed in the last 6 months as I got back into collecting. And they're all over the map. You know, if they're X-Men related, I used to always collect everything related to the X titles. Some of these I've gotten into grab bags and haven't gotten rid of. If there's something different to the comic book, I try to take a picture of it. Most of them I have taken a picture of it. That's one I got signed by Tom Grummett last year. And just a whole bunch of stuff. This is became last week one of my more prized possessions. Alan Bellman did this cover, and then I sent it in and got it graded. But he passed away last week, and so won't be no more of those. If you never got to meet him, he was quite the interesting character. There's the 9/11 issue signed by Strakowski. If I butchered his name, sorry about that. And just kind of moving around in the various. I've got amassed all of the Batman 2, the Volume 2, rather, the New 52 series, as well as all of Volume 3. Yes, I'm one of the weirdos that trudged through Tom King's run because I'm a completist. And then also my Volume 1, which is not complete. The thing I like about CLZ is that you not only have the collections here, but that you also have the wish list. So I've tried to get more organized and focused in my collecting as to put that wish list there and try to tell myself, if there is not listed on this wish list, question is, should you buy it? And that's obviously for back issues. New stuff comes along all the time, but I guess even the question with the new stuff is whether you should buy it. So if you only have so many dollars in that comic book budget, does it make sense? And so one of the things that I'm going to be doing over the next little bit is going through things like this. I like Bishop, wasn't really a fan of that series back in the day. But I got that in some comic book mystery box or something to that nature. And I'll probably be getting rid of those right there that I don't have the sets for. Now I have all of the Cable Volume 1. That's one of those series that I went back to from the younger days and amassed them all over the last 6 months. And so I'm also in the process of reading some of these. And so they're kind of like collection volumes now. I can just read one right after another. So random ones like this where Hulk got shot, like that really mattered, right? Got a Deadpool sketch cover that I got Scott Hepburn to do for me, kind of a Wizard of Oz theme. He didn't put the word bubble like I wanted, but still cool nevertheless. Picked that one up on an auction. On Metaphorical's option, Logan Eats Poop. Thought that was pretty cool. Deadpool's one of those characters I like, but kind of overused. So here's the big collection that I've been working on, and let's see, why is that not? There we go. Uncanny X-Men. So for those of you who have been watching my videos, you know that I have been amassing the Uncanny X-Men. So as you'll see from here, I have -1. This is something they did back in '97. Did negatives, just a way to sell more comics. Did negatives of all the X-Men titles. I actually have 2 of those covers there. No, this is not the Grail. This is the facsimile cover, but that's the only facsimile I have in this. So I have all of them, -1. And then through 544, the only 2 I'm missing, rather, are number 1, the real version, and number 4, which is the first appearance of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So you see that I've taken pictures of the ones that I've had graded. This is actually graded. I've never taken a picture. That one's graded and that one's graded. So I finally picked up this one over the weekend, and then also picked this one up yesterday. So I'm not a very high, especially on the older stuff like this. I mean, that stuff gets kind of expensive. So I've never really been a high grade on those older things. I'm a low grade kind of guy. So really excited about trying to complete this year. I've got my eyes set on a couple. And one thing that I did with the Uncanny X-Men run, and I know some people are, no way they would do this, but I like this version of the the first appearance of the stranger. I actually got that, and you see I've got it listed as a point 0.5. It's a complete copy other than the cover. So the cover was missing. So you can get those repro covers and offline, and they look really realistic. I have been contemplating actually taking the staples out of the comic and attaching that and then grading it. I know I'll get a purple label, and nobody likes the purple label, but like say the first 10 be graded, which most of them are already, and having first 10 or 20 or so graded. Also, this one right here is one that I elected to take the cheaper way out and get one and get a repro cover. So those are pretty cool if you've never seen those. But so some of as I cull the herd, so to speak, those Bishop comics that I mentioned, the 2099 Alpha and Omega, stuff like that. I'm going to start pulling those out of my boxes and making better use of my stuff. And so, CFAP, thanks for showing up. Greyman, what's going on? How's everything across the pond? And JRK Comics, what is going on? JRK says CFAP autocorrect try to change you to crap, and well, hey, just don't change CFAP to crap, so that everything will be okay. So, as I said earlier, the bigger thing is trying to find room, and then in culling down the herd, you can also either sell those online in mystery boxes, give those away to good people, which I have to some folks in the comic book community. I feel like all those comics that I rescued off of the shelf are in. No, Greyman, I have not got them all yet. Lack 2, so I am getting ever so close, but not there quite yet. But I feel like I rescued all those comics out of a 50-cent box, a dollar bin, somebody else's collection that wasn't taking care of them, whatever the case may be. And so if I've got comics, I've got a beater box over there to the side that I keep all my comics that I've either got doubles or maybe I upgraded a copy. And so this is the old copy that I send out to people, and I feel will get more joy out of them than I am. What's going on, Funk in Comics? I'm sure that I'm not the first person that's ever said this, but what the funk? So I'm sure not the first person that's ever made that joke. But so what are y'all's thoughts? How are you handling your collections? I've found myself started to buy more graphic novels of maybe indie stuff that I'm unsure of. I kind of wait till they get in a collection, buy maybe the first graphic novel that has the first 5, 6, 7 issues before I kind of delve into the floppies each month. And we want the funk. We want the funk. We want the funk. Comics on the mind. The thing about it is, if you're here, you got comics on the mind. And so that's why we are here today. I know I didn't do that as good as you, but hey, it's a tribute. And, mimicry is the highest form of flattery, right? So Big Will is in the house. Big Will, you didn't have your signature. I have arrived, man. I'm thinking somebody's done hijacked your account because all you're doing is the little wave deal. But man, when you have arrived, Big Will says, I have arrived. Mark Spector says, I only have 1 long box and 4 short boxes. Man, you have a lot more mental strength than I do. If they get out of hand, I sell them, make room. I need to consolidate with my limited space. And, that's part of the truth. So basically, Mark, what do you do on your collection? Do you just kind of get your, you're eating, Big Will. Well, thanks. So, Anyway, so Mark, do you just read more digital comics? Are there a certain select few? I'm assuming that by your name that you're a Moon Knight fan. So do you just keep like the Werewolf by Night appearances, the first solo series, maybe the David Finch, Stephen Platt runs? What is it that you keep up with that you're able to have that much restraint in your size of your collection? Reading a lot of digital holographic novels. Yeah, I have the Moon Knight keys. Yeah, comics on the mind. When asked, why is it mind and not mind? That was my best Greyman impression, although I don't have the beard. Nor do I have a battle axe in my hand. I do have a battle axe over there above my mantle, but I don't have one in my hand. And then mine says, why not? Um, yeah, some deep dark secret. I do a lot of digital reading, and I only have 2 books on the pool. So, what books are on your pool, Mark, and anybody else in the comments for sure? What 2 books are on the pool? I have been looking at the newer books lately, and kind of thinking to cull that down. The X-Men runs. I've been trying to convince myself to get rid of those. I never really picked up Excalibur. Except the first issue, but get rid of some of the other ones, especially as Cable and Wolverine have come back out with their own solo series. Because using those funds to buy bigger books, like completing my X-Men series, is big to me. Mark Spector says right now, Immortal Hulk and Batman, and they will change from time to time. And that's my deal. And I know there's a lot of folks like me that are kind of completists. So, like for example, with Batman Volume 3, even during Tom King's, um, you know, Wedding on the Beach that took 100 issues, those type of things, still soldiered through, and they know that there are people like me, so that's why they keep putting garbage out. Instead of great stuff issue to issue. But with that said, the recent run that started with Batman and Tinian or Tinian, depending on how you pronounce his name, has been really good. Immortal Hulk, thought to get on the Immortal Hulk bandwagon, Mark, and the I have heard that after 25, it just kind of petered off, and it really wasn't as good as what it used to. Real big against capitalism type deal, trying to make a statement. Funk Comics says, I have a whole room full of comics, like 7 long boxes and 20 short boxes, and nothing is in order. That would drive me insane, not knowing where my comics were. And so um, that would really drive me insane. Comics on the Mind says, yeah, because I have 9 long boxes and growing. Yeah, every time you go to the LCS and you're picking up some good stuff, you get it back. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And you're like, well, should I really part with it? I mean, it's like parting with some of your kids. So here recently, at least for me, so can't speak for nobody else, but pick up a comic, especially if there's a history behind that comic. Not so much now as what it was back when I was a kid. And I remember, okay, I picked this comic up here, picked this comic up there. But I found that even going back and picking up the same version of the comic, I still have that connection, if that makes sense. So I've got the first Batman comic that I ever bought. Well, I have a version of that Batman, that first Batman that I ever bought. And it's almost like I can remember going to that particular store. And picking up that particular issue. It was 1989, and everybody knows what came out then, the Batman. So I mainly want to focus on my 2020 goal books, which are pricey, so I need a limit. Yeah, exactly. And hey, if I can put stuff off to waiting for the trades are even cheaper. I really don't like reading the digital as much as I do having the stuff in hand. Gets back together after 28 political stuff I like. Oh, Comics on the Mind says he likes that stuff. Who can put comics in order? It just can't happen. I have 30 short boxes and 20 long boxes, I think. Hey, what's going on? Escargo. Hello, the luckiest man in long boxes. Mystery boxes. Aside from Chad RCG, maybe Warlord is right under Chad RCG, because I know Get all the X-Men, Spider-Man, and Avengers books. And hey, you know that that's the deal. You know, there's some characters you have this attachment to. You remember getting the first comic, and then it was that character, right? And so Marvel and DC both, if you got that particular character. Now, if you were lucky and let's say your favorite character was Dead Man or Swamp Thing, you know, there's only a select few comics that's going to be in. So Justice League Dark, maybe their own particular title. Um, you know, but me, you know, I like Cable or I like Wolverine, Batman. You know, these are really popular characters, and so it's a little hard to kind of narrow my focus there. Thing, never been a big thing guy. That didn't sound right. Black Bolt, he didn't say much, and Puck. Can't talking about Wonder Man comics on the mind. You remember the Wonder Man comic that came out in the '90s where he was a Hollywood star? I used to pick that up all the time. That was about the Operation. What was it? Where the Kree and the Skrull fight, Operation Galactic Storm. So I picked up all those, and that era of Avengers really liked. Big Will's asked what I am doing because of Huntsville. I'm crying, Big Will. I'm really crying. They canceled a con I was planning on going to last weekend, and then Huntsville. I said, well, forget it. I'm gonna put that stuff up, and I was getting all my books together for Huntsville, and then I get the announcement. So anyway, I'm buying too many comics online, Big Will. That's what I'm doing. Uh, yeah, for Avengers 9. Yeah, I have a bunch of the Thor from that event. So, Comics on the Mind, talking about that, I picked up my first copy of the first appearance of Beta Ray Bill this weekend, or 2 weekends ago. This weekend will be 2 weekends ago. I'll get it right in a minute. For 45 buckaroos. I'm going to give that sucker a press, and I was hoping to get Simonson to sign it. I was thinking about going to East Coast Comic Con, but I believe that one's been pushed back too. And what's going to end up happening is they're all going to get lumped together, and so we're going to have to make a choice of which one we want to go to. Still waiting for my Thor 337 to come back from CGC. Yes. Really dug the Thor #3, the fight with Beta Ray. Thought that was pretty cool. And then the last Thor that just came out last week, I read it yesterday, and so that was pretty good. And so I'm really liking Kate's run. Not a big Thor guy, and you know, not a real big Thor guy, but do like Donny Cates' run. And look, I used to collect Thor back in the day of Simonson's run, so it tells you how long ago it's been since I read some Thor. Yeah, that cover is awesome too. Let's see, I think it's 338 on my wish list for this year. I believe it is. The wish list. Yep, 338. So yeah, that one's on the wish list too. Yeah, well, no, Funk, I don't have a press. I'm going to get them pressed. I have thought about getting into pressing, but like you, I'm so scared. And, you know, I'll tell you what kind of guy I am. And I mentioned earlier that I'm not a high grade collector. So this is going to sound like it's doesn't make any sense. But when I was a kid, literally, I was like OCD before OCD was a thing. I would buy books, read them, and then I would take them to the used bookstore and get rid of them. Go to the bookstore and buy a brand new one to sit it on my shelf just to collect dust because I didn't want any creases in the corners or all on the spine. We're not talking about comic books. We're talking about just like regular books. And I would spaz out when I took my Infinity Gauntlet #1 out of the bag and the tape caught that black cover. And there was this little place down the bottom. It was a little where it tore. It was still black because of the cover, but I knew it was there. No one else knew it was there, but I knew it was there, and it about drove me crazy. So it's just one of those things. Hey, any updates on the 400 subs giveaway? I'm not gonna lie, I had my eyes on that gorgeous Spider-Man, Spider-Woman rather, #1. Hey, escargot, it can be yours. And so the only update is that we kind of stalled out before we hit that 300, and stalled out, and when that happened. And so I had initially said that if I hit that 300 mark before last weekend, that I would um, a, that I would give away two of those books that were available. I did announce yesterday that I'm going to do that anyway when we hit the $400 subscriber mark. So I am trying to, but yeah. So back to the pressing deal. Uh, I want to, because it could save me so much money, and I would love the book so much better. But I would just hit myself on the head so hard if I messed up on a comic. And I know they say, well, try one out on one you're okay with losing, but I'm not okay with losing any of them. That's the problem. Um, so yeah, I know that's why people use blue tape. Talking about the blue tape deal. And I guess it's just because I don't have one of my comics in front of me. But it would unnerve me to no end, back to the whole book deal, that one of the plastic bag corners on the back would turn up. I mean, it had to fold perfectly well, otherwise it wasn't good enough. And so I would always use two pieces of tape. And so when I got back into collecting, I did figure out that I could use one piece of tape this way. Uh, and so we would be able to only have to have one piece of tape. But the blue tape thing I haven't got into. Some people just like to do the same thing. Um, and what I do in my boxes is to remember which books I've read and which ones I haven't read. The flaps don't get taped down until I read them. So that reminds me. I guess the other, yes, the dreaded tape pull. It has happened to us all, I assume. Tape can be very evil, but I don't tape the flaps down until I read them. I have been using the CLZ app more. And so the thing with the CLZ app, that you can mark if they're red or not red. So I've thought about just starting to do that. Yeah, well, the resealable bags is something new, Big Wheel. And every time I say, hey, I'm going to go get these resealable bags, I'm not going to have to worry about that, because whoever came up with that is probably making a lot of money, because that was a pretty neat idea. I have not, every time I go to get a pack of them, they're out. And so I end up getting the old ones. Okay, okay. So that's right. Oh, hey, I've got plenty of stuff to practice on. I've got some of those comics that I've upgraded. Greyman's kind of like, what's that lady on YouTube? Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. May Brown. That's. I think that's her name. And so Greyman's kind of like that with the apps. Well, see, Greyman used to. I could remember every single comic book I had. And I'm pretty close to being able to remember where I bought every single one of them. And I am blessed with a fairly good memory. I can remember what I did when I was 1 year old. The problem is that those memories start blurring together. Uh, Big O, what's going on, man? Um, so my memories start blurring together. So I'll go look at a comic and I go, "Oh, I've got that one," but no, I had it before in my old collection, not in my new collection. And so I have found myself, I've ended up buying comics that I've already had before I start using CLZ as a way to keep up with that stuff. I can imagine if you don't use CLZ from the get-go, that it would be hard to, discipline yourself to go back through and then put all those into a system. I could imagine that, but so I was fairly fortunate that early on in my uh, coming back to collecting, I was getting CLZ and getting that entered in. And so I didn't have to go back and catalog everything as some others would have to. Uh, yeah, yeah. So big O FGC U42. I know that's got to mean something, big O. Uh, FGC4. Great. Now I have the big O theme. Yeah. Let's see. Looking back at the chat, CFAP says, Escargo, that's my Spider Woman. Well, it could be Spider Woman as long as you have gone to the 400 subscriber video and left a comment that says, I want to win or I want to win in order to win and be subscribed to the channel. So be sure that you have done that so that when we get there, you can do that. So, oh, okay. Yeah. I knew it meant something. And so, Comics on the Mind, I know you're a teacher and all. Have the school that you were teaching at, have they shut down because of the coronavirus? Yeah, Mark. And if I was as disciplined as you are in getting only certain titles and in that size of a collection, that would be easier. Plus, if I wasn't anal, I mean, just to be honest with you, everybody's got their own little idiosyncrasies, and that's one of mine. Is I don't like everything to be in proper order. Yeah, 2 weeks. Yes, the Corona. Um, it used to be a song, my Sharona, and I was singing, my Corona. But, now I don't know if that's such the great thing to sing. I was making jokes about people and their Corona at the Mexican restaurant. And all the waiters thought it was funny. But, now maybe not so much with all these people getting Corona. And, if you watched my video yesterday, you know that I was out of town and work all last week and found out that I was possibly exposed. Of course, all of us have been possibly exposed as we go through life. All these people that don't know, if we have a Lyme outbreak, we that's right. Yes, that is correct. If we have a Lyme outbreak. Hey, that's a good one. Next time I hear about people getting Lyme disease, that's what I'm going to say. Maybe they're drinking too much Corona. Drinking too much Corona, getting the Lyme disease. But yeah, so everything's closing down. I think it's all a little overblown. But with that said, it's kind of like I believe Reagan said, the difference between a recession and a depression. So it's a recession if your neighbor's out of a job. It's a depression if you're out of a job. So I guess it's all in perspective. That if you have the corona, it's a very serious deal. If you're having to stay at home and not getting paid for it, that's a very serious deal for most people. And so for at least the next 2 weeks, yeah, it's getting crazy. We had all kinds of meetings set up because we were under that 50 threshold, but then now all of a sudden it's 10 people or 20 people. And so, what's interesting is how they're going to enforce it. Are they going to be like all Gestapo if you get together and have all these people? The uncanny Kyle Walker, what is going on from way down south? Kyle is further south than I am. I'm southern Comic Geek, but it's southernish. It's all from a certain point of view, as Obi-Wan would like to say. And so, Kyle, I pulled the trigger on 2 more. I only need 2 Uncanny X-Men to complete my set now. So just letting you know. They have to have the outbreak gets out of hand. They will deploy the national. Yeah, and I hope it doesn't come to that because it's going to get crazy up here. It's going to get crazy for sure. Yes, happy Tuesday to everybody, if it is Tuesday where you are at and when you watch this video. Well, hey, that's good. Comics on the mind. You were better than most folks. 11 cases. And so, as I was sharing with the chat earlier, I was actually probably exposed to it last week. The thing is, it's like cancer, right? If everybody said, okay, well, everybody needs to get tested for cancer, it's an inexpensive test. We're going to test you and let you know if you have cancer. All of a sudden, guess what? Cases of it would spike up because a lot of us have it. We just don't know it. This is the same thing with this. A lot of people have probably had corona and thought it was the flu, thought it was a bad cold, maybe allergies, and got through it. Now, granted, they probably had lighter cases of it. I know there's extreme cases of it, just like there's extreme cases of the flu. But you know, state is taking drastic measures to decrease the risk. Yeah, some states are more, Gestapo. I know New York and California, they're shutting restaurants down. I mean, I hate to turn this into, a whole political deal, but this is part of that comics ramblings. But I mean, how can you? I mean, I guess it's an epidemic. I don't know. I'm labeling an epidemic, but it is certainly a bad deal. So Nova Mad 1966. Good morning to you. Never seen you in the chat before, so thank you for stopping by. And it's funny that all these people that all of a sudden have to be sitting up in their houses or off work or told to basically have a curfew. Yeah. That have to have these curfews now. These are the same people that are going, I can't have no social interaction. What am I going to do? I'm like, wait a minute. You're the same people that were on Instagram and Facebook and everything else all day and never had any social interaction with anybody. And then now that you're told you can't, now all of a sudden it's a big deal. We've become less social creatures because of the digital age. Not as much getting out in the public. I mean, it's just like right now, here there's 12 people in the chat, scattered all across the world, right? Scattered across the United States, down New Zealand, and other parts across the pond. And, we're having a conversation. That's the great part of technology, right? The bad part about technology is that when you're in front of somebody, not being able to sit down and have a conversation with them, staring at this little thing, right? So it's can be a big deal. Hopefully it does not. Sending backpackers back. I'm claustrophobic. Yeah. I guess it's just because most people, hey, I'll do it. It's like a kid, right? If you can use reverse psychology on them, and some of you guys that have children or even you teachers, if you use reverse psychology on them, they'll do what you say. But if you say, hey, go do this or don't do that, they'll do it just to spite. And so it's kind of like that with these curfews and social interaction lockdowns that people are like, I don't want to do it. But you were doing it before. So what's the big deal? Almost everything is shut down in PA. Look, as long as the comic shops are not shut down. I know. I asked the LCS yesterday. I went and picked up my books from What's Going On Comic Head 84. Man, I have to give a shout out to Kenny. Last night I was on Comic Gories. Man, you were bringing the heat, man. Bringing the heat. How in the world y'all figure out where all your stuff is when do they give you those titles of what could possibly be that you have an idea of what you want to use for those categories, or they just throw it all down on you and you do it? Because being able to go a caped cover, it's like crap, a cape cover. What? Try to think of a cape cover, So y'all were really bringing it. And Bub was too. Bub was thinking outside the box on that Virgin cover. We'll definitely have to give it to him. Although I was kind of worried when they said they wanted a screaming cover, knowing where Bub's mind could go as to what he might pull out next. Oh yeah, if the LCS shuts down, I mean, what are you going to do then, right? What are you going to do? I guess you have to go to eBay or some such craziness. Don't stay. Hey, staying in your house is, like in my case, a lot of my family's got the flu, and oh, Yeah, I wish they did give you a clue. But hey, man, y'all did great to be able to think that quick on your feet to be able to go grab those deals. And we were talking about organizing your comics. So being able to go and lay your hands on them is definitely an accomplishment. And so, yeah, but I've had all the family in the house have the flu. And so staying in the house is a little bit more dangerous. Um, oh, boy, what in the world did I just do? Okay. Yeah, Bub likes the special covers. Bub needs to have his own show, after dark with Bub, and have some like dun, 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 music going on in the background, and he can show a special deal, have a special, rated X. Yeah. Yeah, it would be definitely hard for me, Gray Man, to do comic gores as well because I mean my mind would just go blank as soon as they would ask it, and as soon as somebody brought it out, I go, man, I got that same cover. Why didn't I think of that? Being put on the spot. Bub's- yeah, Gray Man. There's a good. Hey, Bub. There you go. Gray Man just gave you a good idea for a show name. Mike Rogers, thanks for stopping by. Technical difficulties, please stand by. Yeah, yeah, not to be confused with X-Men comics. Although Bub might have some of those. I remember it was a what the or it was some kind of parody magazine, and it was called X-Men, as in EX men, and it was all the male characters were turned female. Little did we know that Marvel was going to try to do it on mass scale, in gender realignment, one way or another. That this was in the 90s that they came out with that. So later, of course, it was fashionable to do all that, to turn Thor into a female and Vision into a female and all the other kind of stuff. So who would have knew? X-rated comics with Bubs. Hey, Bub's wheels are already turned. He's like, man, that might be an idea. Um, who he gets on a show, who knows? The uncanny Kyle Wonka got to go back to work. Well, hey, glad you get to go to work today, and hopefully you can stay corona free. And thank you for stopping by. Does anyone else, SCG? Hey, look, they should. Here's the deal. What I tell people to call me? I don't care what you call me, as long as you call me home for supper, because I've been called a lot that worse things than SCG before. My name is Jason Richardson. My boss's name is Jason, and here's a little deal for the comic book community, a little quiz, as it were. And so my boss's name is Jason, and so people were confusing us. And what do you call you? I said, you can call me Jr. Well, growing up, I was not nicknamed JR. For what reason? Does anybody in the comments want to guess why, as a kid, I was never titled or nicknamed JR? And I'll let the people. I guess this will show your age if you can guess this. Hey, Gray Man, you got it. That is exactly right. Gray Man wins the Cupid doll. It was because of Dallas, and J.R. Ewing was the bad guy, and so therefore I was not called. Got to get the coffee, folks. Therefore, I was not called that. So, that's kind of not a deal nowadays. And so, few Dans. One guy's Big Dan, the other one's Little Dan. Yeah, there you go. Maybe so, Mark. Maybe so. Maybe it's a foreshadowing of things to come for Gray Man. Because unlike my last deal, Gray Man, anybody, whether you're across the pond, the down under, or anywhere else in between the North Pole and the South Pole, you can win my 400 subscriber giveaway. Will be comics on my. Gotta go run in the kitchen. Gotta have the coffee, man. Gotta have the coffee. Everyone is here has met a Mike Rogers. Well, when I see Mike Rogers, was it Buck Rogers in the 20? Oh, it was. That's the one I was thinking about, Duck Rogers. And so every time I see that, I was like, Duck Brothers in the 25th and a half century. You know, it was a Daffy Duck that did that. Um, I think I left a comic already. Got to go put the little guy for a nap. Have a good day. Yeah, Duck Dodgers. Duck Dodgers. Mark, go put the little guy down for a nap or get him up and keep him out of trouble. Yeah. So yeah, that was quite hilarious. Those old Warner Brothers cartoons were hilarious, and of course nowadays in this day and age, no, can't do that kind of stuff. It's just too politically incorrect. Uh, oh, I think you left a comment already. Okay, I was trying to figure the comic deal out. Okay, the Warner Brothers stuff is so politically incorrect, and but it was hilarious. And the thing about good cartoons like that is if you as an adult get things that you didn't get as a kid. So how they're able to put that stuff in there is good writing. um, so we have kind of left the topic of comics, so that we can maybe get when 50 60-year-old men got out. Yeah, exactly. Only buying comics with guaranteed 3-day shipping. I expect people taking money and not shipping for 2 weeks or more. um, yeah, Spirit Comics. uh, I mean, Bugs Bunny, you know, so let's take Bugs Bunny for example. Okay, Bugs Bunny, Doug Dodgers had yeah. Take Bugs Bunny for example. Bugs Bunny, on occasion, to get away from Elmer Fudd, which, as an aside, as I'm typical to do, squirrel. As an aside, Elmer Fudd versus Batman, I thought it was hilarious. But anyhow, so Bugs would dress up like a woman to escape Elmer Fudd. It wasn't a political statement. It wasn't a statement that, hey, this lifestyle is okay, or you need to accept me for this lifestyle. It was totally in jest. It was totally funny. No one thought anything about it. I don't think anybody said, oh, look at Bugs Bunny. He's trying to teach people how to dress up like girls when they're really boys. No one thought anything about it. No one thought anything about it. Because when Bugs got kissed by the girl bunny, can't remember her name, Babs maybe, like Bugs straight, Bugs is cool. No one thought anything about it. Why does everything have to be a political statement nowadays? Why does everything have to be a statement on sexuality these days? No one cares. So that was the great thing about that back then. Um, So, Big Will, what are you doing because Huntsville got canceled? MegaCon, I read an email last night that MegaCon is still contemplating being on because it's actually in April. So, hopefully, a lot of the stuff's blown over now by then. I was actually contemplating if MegaCon's on, actually going to it. Which means I'll probably have to cut some of the other smaller stuff out just by virtue of time and money. Um, all these emails coming through. Daffy Duck, you're despicable. Or Sylvester the cat, suffer and succotash. Yeah, it was definitely funny. Lack of war. Yeah. People just agreed to have more in common than they had different. We need more violence. Men are being taught to be women. Yeah. And talking about violence, that was another thing. How many times did people get pianos dropped on their head? How many times they get anvils dropped on their head? That Roadrunner guy was always picking on Wile E. Coyote, dropping him off the cliff, making him look down so he would fall, that type of stuff. Roadrunner was a bully. He was teaching kids bad stuff. He was teaching kids bad stuff. So, but no, nobody ever thought that, and we are, I hope I don't have to get my money back for my plane ticket. Yeah, probably going to. So MegaCon is that your first con this year, Comics on the Mind, or your first con period? Agreed. Bugs did some crazy, funny stuff that would all be frowned on today. Yeah, and both sides of the the argument too. Spirit, he would tick off some people in 1 minute and then ticks off some people. So he was probably a moderate. Um, the rooster, yes, the rooster. Yeah. Yeah, why did that kid do that? He watched cartoons. It's evil. It's nuts. I mean, you didn't have kids, shooting people up in schools and blaming video games. But how many times did you play cops and robbers? How many times did you play cowboys and Indians? This is going to show my age. I say, foghorn, leghorn. And yeah, but when this is going to show my age, but when V the Final Battle, for those old guys in the chat, you can certainly chime in. But when V the Final Battle came out, I would take the back harder cardboard of a notebook and I would draw a gun on the back of that and I would cut it out. And so then you had a fake gun. And nowadays you can't do that. You can't even do like this. I mean, they can't even read finger guns at school. You read finger guns, it's like they're pointing guns at people. Something bad's gonna happen. I mean, come on, really? Oh me. Let's see. Every time he talked to that dog to tell him his logic, he would punch that dog. He was picking on that dog, and it was probably a racial thing. And it's yeah, he was picking on that dog because he was a certain breed of dog. It definitely would be viewed as such today. I'm surprised they haven't outlawed them from being able to even play those things in certain areas. And these helicopter parents that want to go over them and say, you can't watch that, little Johnny. You got to watch this other very informational kind of cartoon. You got to be able to do this, and you got to be able to recite War and Peace, and you got to be able to read Mark Twain and all this other kind of stuff. Like, whatever. Hey, I've got 6 kids. Okay, ranges 22 to 6 months. And I have made my fair share of mistakes. But I will say this, that kids are very resilient. And that as long as you try your best, most of the time, there are the exceptions. But most of the time, the kids are going to be okay because kids can think for themselves. Stop pretending to shoot guns with their fingers. Battles between the dog and the foghorn were classic. Oh yeah, definitely. I blame California and New York and make no apologies for saying so. Well, that reminds me, Big Will and me were having this comic chat. It was Southern comic chat. And Big Will makes a comment about Northern people, and all of a sudden everybody in the chat's like, and so he gets Big Lion Cat on Southern comic talk. Kind of funny to me, picking on him. Kids see a picture of a gun and freak out now, which kind of makes sense. The more you hide from your kids, the more they see. Exactly. I think the Bible says that the reason why the reason why you know what's wrong is because of the law. So basically, the law pointed out what was wrong, and then it also mentions that the not the Hebrew, but the oh, my mind just went blank. Man, that's bad. But that the reason, essentially, the reason why the heathen knows to do good things is because, hey, good is kind of in our inward being, right? And he didn't have to have the law to tell him that. He just knows that it's this way. There's just certain things. The nature itself does teach us some things, and the more we try to hide from kids, like Comic said, I'm not saying you give your kid a loaded gun. I mean, I'm not saying that crazy crap, but explain things to them. Have faith in your kids. Exactly. Kids are smarter than what they let on to do. Talking about that, my oldest 2 no longer live in the house, and so they're out on their own, and so that's great. Because one of them's 22 and one of them is 20. It'll be 20. No, he'll be 20 in May. And so they're out on their own, jobs, doing their own thing. I've got friends of mine who's got kids that are almost 30 years old. And it wasn't that long ago their kid moved out of the house. And it wasn't because they wanted them to. I'm like, look, dude, my job is to raise a good adult, a positive contributor to society. It's not to raise an adult child, although one could argue that a man reading comic books is an adult child. Anyway, people can have responsibilities. So the quicker you can give those kids those responsibilities and let them fly for themselves, the better off they are going to be. Trust me. Oh, wow. Deferred experience. Yeah. I remember when I first saw the Transformers as a kid, I always thought it was cool when Megatron would transform into a gun, and that didn't make me want to own a gun. Yeah, you're right. I was never cool enough to have the Megatron. There was a kid across from my great grandmother who had all the cool Transformers, and including a Soundwave and all that, but I never was able to get that one myself when we were in the 7th grade. Okay. So, Mike, you're a couple years older than me, not too much. Oh my goodness. Comics on the Mind says 1986 was the year he was born. My younger brother was born in 87. So you have officially made me feel old. I definitely made me want Megatron. Oh yeah. Look, I got talking about Transformers. I got a Jeff Edwards he drew some of the IDW stuff for Transformers for IDW. I got him to do a sketch of Grimlock, and doing that. And so I don't know why it didn't come to my mind, but I said it's probably not good. But get one of Hot Rod. That took Optimus Prime's spot. He's called something else. Somebody in the tail. And so, when in the Transformers movie where he pulls out the thing of leadership, and then they sing, "You got the touch, you got the power." It's a good thing I didn't get that one, because every time I'd look at that comic, that's what would go off in my mind, that song. And so some 80s goodness for sure. And no, I'm 87 too. Yeah, my brother was born in January of 87. And he is 9 years younger than me. So that tells everybody, if you did your math correctly, that I was born in 78. So yeah, I mean, Megatron was definitely good. Hot Rod became Rodimus Prime. Yeah, it's that moment where he the matrix of leadership, and he goes, Optimus Prime's in the background, and he goes, Optimus. For those of you who saw that, hopefully that's playing off in your head. And Big Will, you said that the other day, and I put in the chat that you needed to pull out proof, because I didn't believe you, and you pulled out the old driver's license. I was kind of well, that's why they call you the Greyman. But hey, look, the few hairs that I have left on the side are actually starting to turn gray. Yeah, so I don't know, take it as a compliment or insult, Big Will, but you look like an older guy. I went to the industry that I'm in, just so you know. So I'm in the insurance industry. Nobody hate me yet. But in an insurance business, it's kind of a niche side of the insurance business, and so we actually still collect premiums from people. For some of you, that's going to be totally foreign, but Greyman, you were talking about being gray before old. My great grandma woke up when she was 13 years old with gray hair. So yeah, at least starts peppering. Well, yeah, it peppered and then it turned loose. Comics, my hair did. There he goes. Yeah, Mike Rogers says Big Will has confidence, therefore he seems older, and so that is the deal. Who's Your Nerd is in the house, so thanks for stopping by. Might be older than Greyman. Well, might be. And I forgot where I was going with that. I hate when that happens. My train of thought just got derailed. But anyway, so hopefully one of my kids didn't die. I'll have to make another one if they do. Me and my family go bald by 26. You know, that's why I told my oldest sons they have a head full of hair, and they said, "I'm not going to go bald because I've got a head full of hair." I said, "Yeah, I did too once." You know, and so I mean, I used to have I never got the mullet. You know, never was into the mullet, but I did have the hair. You know, on the shoulder type deal, over my ears, that type thing, and it was just one of those things. Um, hmm. Yeah, I thought I was going somewhere good, but I guess I wasn't because I forgot where I was going. Um, let's see here. Yep, yep, yep. Well, guys, we've been going at this for about an hour now, and I really appreciate everybody stopping by, and hopefully everybody stays. Um, that didn't make any sense. See, that squirrel, that email thing just flew by me, and I was like, shouldn't have read it. But thanks everybody for stopping by. If you haven't already done so, be sure to check out my video, the 400 subscriber video, to find out how you can have a chance to win a Spider-Man #1. Um, Spider-Woman rather, #1, Spider-Man #1. It'd have to be in the new series. I have a couple of those. But yeah, so be sure to check that out. And yeah, talking about being at a metal concert. Your sound goes mental every now and again, mate. Okay. Um, yeah, it goes every now. I think that's because that's when it chimes in that I have a email, or it might be this creaking chair. But in either case, yeah, I've got a um, different mic. One day I'm actually going to hook it up so I can use that and have better consistent sound. But if you haven't already done so, be sure to check out the 400 subscriber video to find out how you can win. All you have to do as a clue or a teaser is to be subscribed to the channel and make a comment in that video, not another video, but that video that you want to win, or not. Massive echo feedback almost. Maybe that Mike will actually fix that. So hopefully so. Um, So be sure to check that out and share that. So the sooner we get to that 400 subscriber mark, we'll uh, be giving that away. Must be 18 years old. Don't have to be present to win, but you don't have to be in the continental United States. And so, oh, okay. So yeah, maybe that's what's causing it. So thanks for the heads up, mine, so I can think about that in the future. So. Well, now that I've actually officially done my StreamYard deal, and I'm not a StreamYard version anymore, I can actually get some people on the channel. So I appreciate those who have been with me through the start of this video, working through the little kinks of that. And I qualify. Yay! Um, so yeah, so you can qualify if you have already left a comment on that video. So be sure to share that, and so we can get to that 400 subscriber mark sooner rather than later, and we can give away some good comics. Until that time, stay corona free, keep reading, and keep collecting. Goodbye now.